Homeland Security funding for cities that are not considered priorities. For upstate cities, the loss totaled $10 million, but now the House of Representatives has a measure that would restore eligibility for small cities that lost funding. 3 New York representatives co-sponsored that amendment, including Congressman Paul Tonko, and he's joining me now with more on this effort to restore funding. Congressman, it's good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Liz.
So actually what happened was there was a little bit of a mini filibuster, about an hour long, and you managed with some bipartisan support to get some money put back in for a number of upstate cities, including Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, correct?
Right. What we wanted to do is occupy at least an hour's worth of time. We went beyond that. Our office reached out to those across the aisle and colleagues from the Democratic ranks to make certain that those of us affected would speak out and really offer the technical merits of including these cities. Certainly for Albany as a capital region, that is a very key important link to the fact that New York as a city is a high-risk potential target here. So we wanted to make certain that with our, very high-profile R&D operations, the research investments that are made in the area, the fact that we have the reservoir that serves a large portion of the water supply to New York City, the fact that we have, the capital infrastructure, the state agencies that network with the city, and certainly the fact that we're the 3rd fastest growing hub for science and technology jobs. These are important elements that have to be taken into account. The fact that we have the Knowles Atomic Laboratory that works with the military, and many of our nanotech operations and science investments are working with branches of our military to make certain that the state-of-the-art opportunities are available to our military operations. And so we felt it was very important to network with those dollars that being available with our local infrastructure to provide the best response. This was a major opportunity.
Okay, I'm sorry. Pardon me for interrupting, but just to be clear here, overall funding is being cut, right? This is part of the Republican push to cut spending. This is a whole. You're talking about like $1 billion cut out of Homeland Security funding, and the money has to come out of somewhere. So a naysayer might say, look, upstate New York, yes, there are targets as you just enumerated, and they are connected, some of them, to the largest target, New York City, which is getting $151.5 million, the same amount that it got before. And in the eyes of someone like Mayor Bloomberg, that's a priority. Why is it that upstate, not necessarily the capital region, but there are some of these smaller areas that all across the country that perhaps should not get the priority where larger places should?
Well, the battle here, Liz, is still that it makes them eligible. There will be final decisions made in terms of the best investment made, but it is a 2-part saga here. We wanted to make certain that some of these communities that were not allowed to receive the funds are now eligible, and the battle continues from our office working with the United States Senate to make certain that the funding level for UASI, the urban area program, and the Homeland Security dollars in general are available, and that fight still continues in the United States Senate, which we're obviously networked with through our efforts in the House.
Right. I mean, here's the problem. Obviously, we're seeing a fight now that's brewing over the debt ceiling, right? I mean, the House rejected a clean bill that would have raised the debt ceiling. The nation can't borrow any more money and go into any more debt if that doesn't get raised. And the Republicans say, unless you include spending cuts, we're not going to vote yes on that. So now we're talking about Homeland Security, very important, of course, but so are a host of other things that are very important that need to get funding.
Absolutely.
And the money needs to come from somewhere.
Certain. And for certain. And my message here has been that we need to have a balanced approach. You can't just balance this budget or address the deficit through a very narrow wedge of the budget pie called domestic programs. That's an assault of the middle class. It's an attack on education. It's an attack on R&D investments in energy when we're asked to join a global race on clean energy and innovation. So in order to do this effectively, and the most intelligent response would be to balance it with revenues and spending cuts so that you have a good balance and you're not cheating those areas that will grow jobs and provide a sustainable outcome. What concerns me, Liz, is that while they call for spending cuts, they're also initiating revenue cuts. And the delta that exists out there, the shortfall by which to pay our bills, continues then with that thought process.
Right.
What we need here is to expedite this negotiations, because as time passes, we accrue more interest. And my concern was, let's get this done in a straightforward manner and get it done with, because America's families believe that, you know, you roll up your sleeves, you go to work, you play by the rules, and you pay your bills.
Well,
and America, they believe, should bear that same responsibility. This is not authorizing new spending.
I see.
It is allowing us to have the room to pay the bills.
I understand. And also, obviously, clearly the White House wants to jumpstart these negotiations, too, because they had both the Republicans from the House and the Democrats over to talk to the President. You know, here's the thing. This was this was good for you. This amendment passed with bipartisan support. The Democrats overall came off a week and a half or so of very good news. You had the win in New York 26. It was a huge win, GOP-dominated district. You had Kathy Hochul sworn in, big win. Medicare clearly emerges as a big focus for 2012. And then, and I'm sorry that I got to bring this up, but then you have Anthony Weiner sucking all the air out of the room. So I'm wondering if you're...
Well, you know, I think that situation...
Please continue.
Right. I think that situation will be responded to by the congressmen, and also, you know, we don't know the details of that situation, and it may be an interception with technology that provided some very awkward moments and very, you know, difficult issues to address, but we don't know the details. I don't know the details, so I, you know, don't feel comfortable commenting on it. But to the spending, you know, what we're saying is there has to be a balance here with revenues. You don't cut Medicare. You don't cut Medicare, Liz, while you offer handouts to the oil companies and tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires.
So,
it makes no sense. It's not the way to grow an economy.
I understand that, yes. And I also know, after a week or so of Congressman Weiner speaking about this issue, we still don't have the details. You don't have any more details than I do. But my question, and I understand you don't want to comment on it, and I respect that.
Sure.
However, my question to you is, are you concerned about the fact that this mess, if you will, has been deflecting attention away from things like Medicare and spending cuts and the revenue discussion and the debt ceiling?
Not really. I think the people are most focused on these urgencies, the priorities. This is still the overall priority. Grow jobs, you know, grow the economy, stop shrinking the middle class. These are the guiding principles. This is where all the focus is. I can tell you down here, it is not that distraction. People are still working. We met at the White House yesterday with the President. We want to make certain that, you know, as he partners with all of the various conferences of Republicans and Democrats in both the United States Senate and the House, that we get that negotiations completed. And I can tell you, no one has lost a bit of focus or a moment of time because of some distraction like the one you described. It is not taking us off course from our business. And I think that certainly the win in New York 26 is an overwhelming statement that overshadows that activity. And it made a statement very clearly via Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike. Do not end Medicare. Don't cut Medicare, as the Republican budget proposes to do, but look at some of these other areas of revenue where you're handing out mindlessly benefits to oil companies that are sitting on the best profits they've ever known, the highest profit columns they've ever seen, and where we continue to feed millionaire and billionaire tax cuts at the expense of our working families and middle class.
Sure,
it's not the way to get this done.
It just seems to me, though, that one could shut down this whole discussion regarding the congressman once and for all if all of you, if more of you, if any of you actually just called for an investigation and to end the whole thing.
Well, you know, there is a process that guides situations like this. I don't even know if this situation warrants that. We don't know all the facts. I certainly don't know the facts. And they will review it, and there is a process that will follow if it's necessary. But, you know, again, to the point at hand, we're focused totally on getting this business done. It's critical. You know, we've heard from Moody's. They have said it's not August, it's July. We need to get this done, and America needs to pay its bills. Okay.
Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us to discuss all of this. It's really
been a
fascinating week in Washington. Thank you so much.
It certainly has, and you know, it was quite a win. It's the 9th toughest seat for a Democrat to win in America, and certainly the proposal to end Medicare by the Republicans, I think, set the tone for the race, and it should set the tone at the table as we negotiate the outcomes for the debt ceiling.
Oh, we shall see. Thank you very much.